Okay, this is going to be a quick run through to hopefully get you 80% of the questions answered that I've been getting. I've been sending out a lot of material, but I wanted to go through it in a condensed form. We do have our meetup with REMAX North and Motto Mortgage on Thursday from 3 to 6. We can meet up and answer questions and get everyone into the office of good food and drink and talk about the changes. Also, be sending out more of these type trainings, and I'll also have my broker update next Wednesday, the day before the changes start. So let's go through some things quickly again. A lot of these are repeat things, but I'm going to condense it here, go pretty quickly through it, and then, like always, call me with any questions you have, and we'll make sure that you're comfortable with where we're going from here. So first of all, is any old agreement. So anything pre-June buyer rep or listing agreement, you're going to need to do an amendment. So amendment to representation agreement. So this works for both buyer rep and listing agreements. Very simple. The date you went under that agreement, the date this is effective, just really some disclosures about commissions and representation. So very simple document. But note, this has to be done by August 17th. This isn't something, oh, I'm closing in October, I'll just hurry up and do it right before we close. No, this is to be compliant with the new NAR ruling that begins on August 17th. So you need to have this. It's mainly going to be for your listings. Not too many people probably have a lot of buyer reps on the old form. Also, you do have option 2, which would be to do a new document. But my recommendation is not to do that, just to do this amendment to the agreement. It's very simple, and I think a lot easier to do. Now, the next question I'm getting from a lot of agents is how to complete the listing agreement. I'm going to switch over here. Let me move me over there. And, okay, so we weren't supposed to see that yet. All right, let's go back and get the listing agreement here. Okay, so there's really not much change in the listing agreement. They just moved around some things, which obviously has to do with commission. So the main thing they did is they moved paragraph 8 up here to be with paragraph 5. So a couple things to point out. You're going to do 5A or B only. You don't complete both of them. Now, I have both completed here just for example, but you're going to pick one or the other. Or I'm sorry, I don't have B completed. I just have A completed. And then if you were going to do B, this would all be blank, and you would just have B completed. So traditionally, you're going to negotiate a figure of what the seller's going to pay you, and then also negotiate what you're going to pay the buyer's agent commission. And here I use the example of 6 and 3, and then commissions are not fixed and are negotiable. That's not something you're going to print in there. That's just the talking point that everyone wants to be out there, which I think everyone knew already. But anyway, we won't get into that right now. So 6% there, this is what you're going to pay the buyer's agent, and then we don't do sub-agency, so just putting NA in there. So then if they choose not to pay a buyer's agent, that's when you would do B. If you came down here, this would all be blank, and you would just say, okay, you're just going to pay me 4%. We're not going to give anything to the buyer's agent. I highly don't recommend that. I think they're going to sell the house faster at a better price to offer a buyer agent commission, but that's an option that's now on there that you're going to have good talking points on. I will have the link below to Jared James, who had some great talking points on both the buyer side and the seller side about a lot of these issues. So hopefully you've already watched that, but I will throw that on there again for you in case you have not. The other thing where the confusion is, I think that's pretty straightforward. The confusion is this paragraph 11F about seller's contributions. We're going to go down and take a look at that. Oh, and here, just one thing to point out. So in 8 now is where they used to have the buyer compensation. Now that's just reserved. The reason they did that is just to keep the numbering in line, since that paragraph, the information was moved up to paragraph 5. So 11F here is just saying whether seller does or does not authorize you to share with other brokers and prospective buyers that seller will consider contributing an amount towards buyer's expenses. And where it gets confusing, it says such as buyer broker's fees or other expenses. So that, don't confuse that. If they're offering, if they're doing A above and offering a buyer agent commission, you can tell people that. Um, this is separate, but they just lumped it all together in there. So this would be if they want to offer 5,000 in concessions, regardless of whether they've offered a buyer agent commission or not. Are you allowed to advertise that? A little bit backwards again. It's really, but I think what you want to do is you always want to put does, and just like you do now, if someone's going to offer a seller concession, you're going to talk to them about it before you do it. But if you say does not, and then 60 days down the line, the seller says, well, let's offer, we're competing with new homes, let's offer 10,000 in closing costs to the buyer. Now you got to, either you're going to forget about it, or you have to amend this, or you're not going to be compliant, right? Because you have does not authorize. So I'm recommending always put does. Obviously, you're going to talk to your seller whether they do or do not, or when that time is right, but that would cover you uh, much more to do that. So that's pretty straightforward. It's more you knowing your talking points. I'm not going to get into all those now, but I think the agreement itself is really straightforward on how to fill that out on there. Now, the next point is going to be your buyer tenant uh, representation agreement. So we now have a short form and long form. So the track I'm recommending, just like you do now, mainly you go and you work for free now, right? Most people go and start showing homes and don't have an agreement. So that's going to end. Now, what are you going to be able to get a full agreement signed, the long form, full commitment on day one? Many times you're not going to. So you're going to be using the short form. You're going to pick showing service. You can or cannot charge a fee for that. And I highly recommend only using this form for that showing service. When you want to get into a full service agreement with the client, you should use the long form. It has much more guts to it, and it addresses things like um, amending the contract if a new home builder is offering a higher percentage and different things like that. So um, again, this is pretty straightforward. Also remember, when you're doing these agreements, it always said in our agreements that if the seller wasn't going to pay the buyer agent commission, that the buyer was going to pay it. So our agreements always said that. It's much more in your face now, and so you got to be ready to talk about it more. But that has been always the case. Hopefully, we as an industry will, show the value, and you need to show your value as a buyer's agent, and also the value of a seller offering a buyer's agent commission. And one other side note, I know I'm making this a little bit too long. One of the things, you know, uh, people look at this in a lot of different ways, but one of the positive things here for us is you got to remember the house that 3 or 4 years ago was 200,000, and you're making 3%, right? So you're making $6,000. That house is now 300,000. So even if you a buyer agent commission, you're only making 2%, you're still making $6,000. So our price increase has helped us in that way. I think we will see some shaving of commissions at first, but maybe not either. But just recall, we are all doing better in that respect as far as what you're working off of, because the price levels here have increased a lot over the last few years. So short form to get started. Hey, more power to you if you can start right out with the long form. Um, Again, pretty straightforward, and we'll get into more details on those questions, especially in my Zoom next week. But that hopefully will give you an overview of just how you should proceed with everything. Um, okay, now the other thing, let's go back here. When the change is made, the next question is how the heck are you going to find out? How are you going to tell other agents what you're paying in commission, and how are you going to find out what other brokerages are paying in commission? So there's going to be a lot of different things out there. I'm sure you're already hearing a bunch of things. What we are doing, what we have already done, is completed. Is we have this page right here, already up and running with every listing we have and every commission that we're offering, rental and sale. So this page is all ready to go. I'll have the link below, and we're going to have a system in place, or we do have a system in place now. You're going to email Roxanne, and in the subject line, you're just going to put BBC, buyer broker commission, and with your listing. and then we'll update it. Um, Obviously, you can check this to make sure. I mean, this is hand done, so it is tedious. So it does open up for typos and different things like that. And we have some disclaimers up here that this isn't, set. And here's the essence of the issue, right? Before, you could always go back and say, hey, you offered this at, advertised this 3% commission in the MLS, and you were held to that. Well, now you're not held to that. And I think that's a big flaw in the system going forward. I'm going to go over some things on how to deal with that. So that's going to be annoying at first, but we want to be very transparent and upfront. So that's why we developed this page and have it up and running right now. Okay, so next question is, when you make your offer, how are you going to secure your commission? I can't tell you exactly how you're going to find out that commission. Some other brokerages are doing like I'm doing. Some are, you have to call the agent, text the agent. All these different things are going to be out there. But what you need to do, which is important to do, is you're going to have to do this addendum regarding broker's fees. So you're going to do the 1-to-4 contract. You're going to fill out this form. Again, pretty straightforward. Okay, you call the agent and he says, we're paying 3%. What I don't want to see happen to you is then you put in the offer and you go down the road of ways and everything is like, oh, I was thinking of another property. This one's really only offering 1%. Sorry, I told you the wrong thing. Well, we can't have that, right? We have to be, everything needs to be in writing. And that's where these two forms, this is addendum regarding broker fees. So this is going to go with the contract along with, so you're going to pick whatever that listing broker tells you, you're going to fill that out, and then you're going to accompany it with 2401, which is right here, compensation agreement between brokers. So this is where it's going to be ironclad. Hey, that now it's in writing, and you're going to get paid. And actually, this is extremely similar to how commercial is done now. Unfortunately, I hope that we're going to get to this point that it'll be on the 1-to-4 contract, so we won't have to have all these forms. It'll be set right there. That's how commercial is done now. It's right on the contract. Everyone agrees on the commission right from the get-go. You're going to do the same thing, but you're just going to have to use all the two forms. I threw a third form in here. Just this is how, hey, you find a seller, a for sale by owner, not represented, whatever. You can also do an agreement between broker and owner. So where you say, hey, your property, I'm going to register these people for a certain amount. Hey, if I bring you a good client, you agree on a price, will you pay me commission? Oh, sure, I will. So here's the percent, and it just goes through and explains everything as far as who represents who, and a nice straightforward form if you're working with a seller that's not represented on there. So 1-to-4 contract, addendum regarding broker fee, and then compensation agreement. And it says it right on it. It directs you right there. So that, again, I wish it was on one form, but okay, so we've agreed on it. Now we got to really agree on it, which is annoying, but hopefully, we'll have integrity. Hopefully they'll firm that up to have some more accountability. I don't like how open-ended it is, but we're going to have to deal with it for now. Hopefully that all makes sense. Let's see what I got else. Anything else on my list here? One of the other things I want to make sure you knew that open houses and any of our brokerage listings, you don't have to have an agreement. But what you do have to be careful with is that, if whether it's your listing or even one of our brokerage listings, when you take someone without an agreement, you're still really representing the seller. So you can't have someone coming and telling you like, oh, here's our budget, here's this and that, and then later like, well, you don't represent them. Now they've told, the seller's representative things that they shouldn't know. So just be careful with that, but you do not need the seller or buyer rep at an open house or any of our listings that you would be showing. Another question that just came up real quick was, hey, if I have someone show for me, do they also need a buyer's rep? And they, again, if it's one of our agents, no, but if you would just have a friend say, hey, I'm going to do some showings for you, can you help me out? And they are at another brokerage, they would have to have an agreement with that client. Now it would be the short form showing agreement, and then whatever deal you worked out with them would be fine. But they do have to. They're not an extension of you. Okay, let me go back here. This is what If you remember, that's the Jared James. I'll be putting the link down there where he had a lot of good information on talking points that you need to become comfortable with. I mean, you're going to need to have these conversations. You're going to need to be good at them. You're going to need to be convincing on both the buyer and the seller side. I'll also send the link to this page. It's already up and running. And let me know what's out there. If you see something like better, faster, stronger, like this better, I'm not adverse to changing or updating or doing things better. It's going to be a little bit of a crazy time when this first goes down. So we're all going to have to roll with the punches there. So I will send that all out. Remember, tomorrow, 3 to 6 at the office. Next Wednesday, broker update. We'll make sure you're all up to date. I didn't go into, because I'm getting long-winded here, the SABOR changes. You got an email from SABOR going over those. They were pretty vague. I was not happy. They didn't go into that much detail. So I will be going into more detail on those because obviously there's going to be changes made with how you're going to input things and different things you're going to do with, on the MLS side of it. So have a great day. Hopefully we'll see you tomorrow, and keep looking for these updates. And what I'm doing here too, just to make sure everyone's getting, I'm going to send out the bomb. I'm also going to put in an email with the link. So I want to make sure everyone's getting this information. It's important. And I will make sure I'm hitting every avenue that you have access to this. So anything comes up, please let me know. As always, I'm always available and open for questions. This is a time we need to make sure we're all on the same page. So have a great day. Talk to you soon.